Hi, everyone. Can you hear me okay? Yes? Welcome. For those standing over there, there's a bunch of seats if you want to come sit down in the hot sun. Hi, everyone. I'm Sadie Thoma. I head up our creative agency partnerships for Google. Thank you for being here today. And we are super excited to have some of the creatives, as we said, from this project that we embarked upon. So before I even jump into it, why don't you guys each give a quick intro of who you are, name what agency you work for, what film and story you retold, and, surprise question, a hidden secret talent that you have. They didn't know I was going to ask that.
Yeah, that's my fault, that surprise question. So I'm a writer. I work at 72 and Sunny. I'm one half of a creative team with my boy Heath Sims, who's in the back there. And we worked on Goldie's Locks. And my hidden talent, man, I don't know. That would probably be being able to spend long time by myself in my room without speaking to anybody. It's true.
That's a great talent. I have the same one. I'm stressed out about that curveball question, by the way. It's a lot of pressure.
Really stressful.
I'm Bevan Mahaney. I'm a creative director at Gray. I worked on Little Red with my partner Tesha, Mia, Kara, and our editor Danielle. My hidden talent. Oh, this sucks. Okay, this is so lame, but I can touch my nose with my tongue.
Very good.
Sadie's like, oh, great.
Awesome.
I can't do that. So that's impressive.
Thanks, Noelle.
Is it my turn? Okay. I'm Noelle Hamilton. I'm a creative director at Ogilvy in London. And my team and I worked on Trapunzel. And my hidden talent, should I use the... I'm really good at craps, which applies well here because I'm going to go over to Monte Carlo and gamble all my money away. So I guess that's my hidden talent.
Okay, great. Thank you for sharing those.
Thanks.
So as you saw from the sizzle, we asked 13 creative agencies from around the world to embark on a storytelling project with us at Google. And we essentially just asked them to retell the classic fairy tales that we all know and love for today. And what we did was we said, let's see how you could frame it out across different formats. We revealed the 6-second versions of those fairy tales at Sundance earlier this year, and then we revealed the 15-second, the longer form at South by Southwest. And it was really an amazing experience for all of us, as you could see from some of the films that were shown in the sizzle, to watch how these creative minds, these brilliant creative minds, were able to take these old fairy tales from classic days and think about how to retell them within a modern platform such as YouTube. So very cool, and we're really excited to share them with you more. So I want to start by talking about creative bravery. And there was definitely bravery that went into embarking on this project with us, because obviously for all of you and your creative agencies, your normal day jobs did not stop when we asked you if you would walk down this road with us. So tell us about why you and your agencies chose to even do this with us, because there was limited time, limited budget, and it took some bravery and risks to even decide to do this with us. So Bevan, why don't you talk to us about what made you decide this would be worth it?
Yeah, well, we were really excited about it. You don't normally get briefs like this that are so open-ended. And there were constraints, so it was helpful for us because we could be creative, but we had to think and be simplistic in our thinking so we could convey a message in 6 seconds. What was immediately exciting for us is we knew we had Little Red right off the bat, and I was in a room full of women, and all the sexual harassment scandals are happening, and we all had a lot of emotion about it, and this just felt like this beautiful opportunity from the universe to have a voice and respond in a way that felt honest. So it was really exciting. Yeah.
What about you, Noelle?
Why did we?
Yeah, why did you choose to take it on?
Oh God. Well, I mean, advertising itself is taking something familiar and putting a twist on it. And like Bevan said, I mean, being able to have this creative freedom to do what we wanted, but also within these constraints was really, really fun. It just seemed like a fun thing to do. So yeah, and when we found out that we got Rapunzel, it was another opportunity, like Bevan said, to kind of put a twist on what the female role is in that traditional story.
Okay, cool. And Nathan?
Yeah, so if we're talking about creative bravery, the bravery was probably, for us at least, on the agency's part, because at that time we were two creative teams and a third came in. So it was really up to the agency to let their resources work on something that might not have an immediate return. So so for us, it was super cool to see the agency let us work on something as you guys have kind of touched upon, as creatively fulfilling as this project. But that's kind of, in this instance, where the bravery was for that.
Did you guys have any setbacks or anything that was a curveball? Because you took this on, again, there was limited time and budget. Anything happened that was out of your control that you didn't anticipate?
We had, I don't know if you would say curveball, but we had we got briefed right before Thanksgiving, and then we shot right after New Year's. So we were in pre-pro during Christmas and New Year's, so we worked all through it. But we were so into it that it was actually really a great thing. And of course, we had no money, which actually was really interesting because, again, we had a lot of heart for it, and we called in favors from all of our friends. Some really talented people got on board, and they gave their time really for nothing. So that was cool, just seeing that people actually cared about what we were doing, so that they were doing it for free.
Cool. Okay, so there's a lot of fearlessness in terms of taking these traditional stories and flipping them around and telling the modern day version of them. So can you talk about just what your approach was in thinking about the risks that you took to tell these more unique versions and more modern day stories? Yeah.
I don't think that putting a twist on Rapunzel and making the female role an empowering one was brave. I mean, it's 2018. That's sort of expected. I think that it would have been more risky to come out with a twist on Rapunzel where you have the damsel in distress and someone who needed to be rescued by the prince. So I think that we took, I mean, not the safe route, but it was easy to make Rapunzel an empowering character. Yeah. So I don't think the risks for us was all in the production. I mean, you said you had a pre-pro. We didn't even have a pre-pro. Our director didn't show up. Nadia Rose, who's our amazing trap artist, she had very, very little time to even write the lyrics. So there's a lot of risk going into the actual production to the point where we didn't even know if we could pull it off. So I think the risks for us just lied kind of in that. I think we were pretty confident in our take on the story.
Yeah, for us, it was really delicate because you had to get the tone right. And it's funny, we came out of the gates hot. We were like, let's take a wolf's head and have it bleeding on a platter. And then a super will say, he was asking for it. And they're like, our partners, our friends at YouTube were like, oh, that's really great. We love your passion and enthusiasm. Maybe you just want to rein it in a little. And we're like, no, she'll have blood dripping from everywhere. No, but when we took another look at it, we were like, oh, this isn't about revenge. This isn't angry. This is about a heroine owning her narrative. And so that really helped us. It checked us at a point where we could lean into the real message of it and get that. And I think we wound up somewhere that we feel confident in. You know, it's what we really believed. It was the main point.
I think the only risk for us really was not getting a realistic looking bear suit. Basically, the whole thing would have fallen flat without that bear suit. So it was really nice to hear that our producer knew exactly where to get that exact bear suit. But yeah, that was the main risk. It would have.
Looking for a bear suit. You know who to ask.
Yeah, there's only one in existence. It's normally with John West. So, yeah.
So, are you taking some of those risks? Do you feel you can take those kind of risks with your current clients too? And how can you do that?
Yeah, I think so. Just in terms of risk, like something that we learned, and which you kind of touched upon just before, is taking an existing story and finding another way in. So I think for Heath and I, a big lesson that we learned was kind of how to shift tone. So Goldilocks wasn't a super humorous story in the first place. So what we kind of learned is if you shift the tone on something, which can apply to our brands, and it certainly helps knowing when and where you can do it. That kind of the risk in switching the tone up was kind of what we learned and what we think we can apply to different clients.
I think that, you know, unfortunately right now we kind of are in a time where a lot of people are fearful, especially clients. I think that, you know, when you put something out there in the world, you're going to get positive and negative comments. And I at least a few of my clients, they're kind of not used to that yet. So for them, any negative response is scary to them. And so that's sort of leading to them not wanting to take as many risks. And I understand that. Like, they're the ones spending the money. So they're going to be the ones that are more risk adverse, where we're just the creatives who are like, let's do this fun thing. It'll be great.
It's cool.
Yeah. So yeah, it's really hard. I feel like we do live in a fear-based society, and while it is a great time for women, I work in a very female, you know, forward brand. I work on Dove, so it is a great time for brands like that, and a great time for women. But at the same time, there's this also a culture of fear, and it's, you know, we try to push our clients, but it can be a little scary for them.
How do you, just to probe on that, so how do you sell in work that you want to take risks on if your clients are that risk averse and fearful? How do you sell in that work?
How do we sell in that work? I think it helps to show them that you are ahead of everyone else. So back in the day, back in the 2005, 2006, Dove was ahead of everyone. They kind of put a brave step forward. And in the time between then and now, all the brands are doing that. So they kind of built the sandbox that everyone's playing in. So it's hard for them to see, you know, what's the next step? Where do we take it from here? So I think that if we kind of show them, okay, now everyone's in this space, you need to kind of take another leap forward. They can kind of see, and you know, with this piece of work, you might be able to do that. I think that kind of gets the gears moving for them.
Yeah, I would also just add, like, just letting your brands know that you understand them, and that if it was not appropriate to respond to a certain cultural movement, you know that the move is to be silent, because sometimes that's a brand's role, that they shouldn't have a role. But just if you want to respond to something in real time and it lines up with the brand's values, just, I guess, communicating that and being passionate about it, and really tying it to the brand and its identity and what they value, I think helps get them on board.
So for those of you who haven't seen, by the way, Little Red, the twist on Little Red Riding Hood, flips the script and puts Little Red in the position of the heroine versus the victim. And for Rapunzel, it's this strong, powerful woman who is Rapunzel and representing sort of female empowerment. So both of those stories have that element of female empowerment. I guess the question would be for Noelle and Bevan is, how do you, that's very obviously culturally relevant right now, how do you pull upon culture in all the work that you do? How do you think about relevancy and culture in the work that you're doing for your clients at large?
I think it starts with finding creative talent that is diverse. So, for example, we have an internship program at Ogilvy called The Pipe, and we look for people from all different creative backgrounds. So we've had a poet, a jewelry designer, filmmakers, a guy who started his own magazine, and they bring an incredibly diverse range of thinking to the table. And do you think I know anything about trap music? No, surprising, but I don't. I'm from Atlanta, which is like as far as my cred goes. But you have to sort of have this trust. You have these creative thinkers who don't think like you, who don't come from places that you come from, who bring new and exciting ideas to the table, and you have to trust them, even if you don't get the idea, or you have to trust them. So yeah.
Can you actually just expand on how did you think about turning Rapunzel into Trapunzel, into a trap artist? Like, what was that? And then how did you find Nadia Rose?
It's a pun. It's
like, how did
Trapunzel. You say Trapunzel and there it is. I mean, that's
it was easy to just add a T. How did you think about that, though? How did you come up with that?
And
who wrote the script? Who wrote the lyrics and all of that?
So this is why we're so proud of the pipe at Ogilvy. Is Rapunzel was actually an idea from 3 girls who were in our pipe program.
Awesome.
Yeah, it was really, really great, and it's great when you can kind of nurture that idea and help them bring it to life. We actually gave them a lot of control, not only in the idea itself, but in the production, which is part of the reason why it was it was a little rough around the edges, but we made it. But yeah.
Cool. I forget what question I'm answering. Just like the diversity thing?
How do you draw upon culture and relevancy? Obviously, flipping the script to have Little Red as the heroine and female empowerment is a big theme for us. So how do you think about drawing into culture for any of the work you're doing?
Yeah. Well, the first thing I was thinking of, and maybe this is a tangent, but just in response to the diversity thing and where the idea came from, which I think is really cool. When we first got briefed, we were, it was my partner and myself and 2 other girls, and we were competing. But we both were also aligned in what we wanted to say and knew that it came from a truth that we were all feeling, that we were like, yeah, no, we're going to work together on this no matter what. And that really changed everything. And then everybody that, like, our director, our editor, the food person, everybody was a woman behind this, which was important because this was a story about a female owning her own narrative. So in that sense, having a diversity of point of view is really important in behind the camera, in front of the camera, and that's what we focus on at Gray. How do we bring it to our work? I think it's sort of what we were saying earlier. It's got to be honest. If you have something honestly that you want to say, and it doesn't come from trying to capitalize on a movement, if you genuinely feel it and you gut check it with a small, diverse group of people, you're more likely to succeed and come out with something that resonates with people rather than gets, skewered for trying to jump on a bandwagon.
Yeah, I mean, there are always going to be those people who believe that brands have no role in commenting on what's going on in culture, and there's nothing that you can do that will convince them otherwise. But to your point, if you find that sweet spot and you know it's right, then I'd say go for it.
What about just any other thoughts of big ahas that you took away from doing this project with us that you've already started applying to your current work, or you will start applying to your work, or that you'd tell any other creatives that are out here?
Cool. Well, a big thing for Heath and I, a big learning we got is how liberating constraints can be. So for us, probably the funniest thing about Goldie's Locks is that the lock can do every single thing. It has every single function in keeping out blonde little girls. But that wasn't really an idea that came to us first. We had CCTV cameras, tripwires, everything. It was like a full security suite. But because we had no money, it kind of had to be the thing, and that became the gag. So when you watch the 3 6s and then the 15 and the minute version, the gag kind of accumulates in its humor because you kind of see over and over again that this one lock is the answer to all these functions. So something that we've definitely brought to other brands is this idea of putting constraints on ourselves because it forces you to think in a different way. So yeah, that would be for us.
Yeah, we have 2 big ones that my partner and I talk about a lot in whatever brief we're approaching, but it's simplicity and storytelling. One, Rob always tells us this, just be really clear and simplistic in your message, and that'll come through. That's more important than anything. And to pare it down, I mean, we learned that we wrote our 6s, overwrote it, and then learned to really pull back, lean into the emotion, and that was much more powerful. Inviting people in to tell their own stories and getting them to opt into your work. Because storytelling's innate, like every human being does it, so when you get someone to engage, you have them feel something, it's so much more successful than just bombarding them with your story and your message. So we learned that.
I think for us, the 6-second format's really exciting because I work on a client who has pretty much been in the 30-second spot world for a very, very long time. And what's very exciting is that at the same time that you guys have started this format, they're coming to realize that, this is something that they can utilize doing. I hate the word snackable, but I'm going to use it. You know, these little snackable pieces of content that you can customize more than ever. You can create multiple stories. You can create different versions of the same story. You know, it's really liberating creatively, and it's exciting to see our clients sort of realize the potential of that format.
How about, just to build on that, Nathan and Bevan, what did you think of 6 seconds? When you were told you had to create a story in 6 seconds, what were your thoughts initially, and now where have you come out on the other side?
I mean, I don't know, so it kind of, it didn't, I was thinking more about how it would affect our process. Like, would we have to come up with ideas that immediately had to work in that format? But what ended up happening was it was still the same process, but then we had kind of 6 or 7 ideas, and then you looked at them more critically. So, like, what could you effectively break up into these formats to retell that story? So for us, it was kind of the same process, but we had something that was a funny infomercial, and the cool thing about infomercials is you can just like break them out. There's branding, so when you watch a 6-second video, you have the liberty of putting on an M frame, which immediately kind of drives home the idea. So yeah, that we kind of approached it in the same way, and then critiqued our ideas after they were there. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we were really optimistic and excited because, again, we were like all on board and working together and felt really passionate. So I think we were just overzealous to begin with. We were like, let's tell it from 37 different angles, and we're going to say this, and then this is going to happen. And, you know, hopefully the energy is still there and where we landed with the 6s. But as I said earlier, like pulling back and telling more and creating emotion with music and pulling people in is what we took away and are learning from it. And we're applying that to all of our work, not just the 6-second format, but it was really helpful as a writer in thinking of storytelling and teasing and eliciting rather than bombarding again.
Okay. Oh, did you want to add something, Noelle?
Oh, no. Well, I was just going to say that we had it easy because when you're working with a music video or a song, you can chop it up in a billion different ways. So that was really fun to kind of see like which little parts you could create 6s with.
All right. So final thought is first for everyone to know that there are installations over there for Goldie's Locks, Little Red, and Rapunzel. So please go check them out if you haven't yet. And thank you, Nathan, Bevan, and Noelle, for working on this project with us and for being here today. We truly appreciate your partnership. And lastly, Nadia Rose, who is the trap artist who performed for Rapunzel, is here. And she's going to perform in the next few minutes over on the stage over that way. So
you guys should definitely check it out. She's amazing.
Check it out. And thank you all for coming.
Thank you.
Thanks.